Welcome back to the Wall Street Shuffle. We're glad you're here, and you can go to thewallstreetshuffle.com, sign up for our newsletter, and you can also check out what we look at and what we do. Also, if you want to call in with questions, you can call at 877-326-3255. But now for this segment, we have Gerald Celente on the line. He's the founder of Trends Research Institute, and not only is he entertaining, he is spot on with his trends. Gerald, how are you?
I'm very well, and don't forget, we're also the publisher of the Trends Journal.
Oh, you're touche. You're absolutely right. And Gerald, normally Dan Kofall's here, but he actually was out on assignment today, but he found out you were coming on, and he insisted on calling in too because he wanted to say hello. Dan, what's going on?
Compadre, how are you? How are you, Gerald?
I'm doing great, Dan and Danny.
Hey, and Danny, you got to tell them a little bit more because I'm looking at the new Trends Journal and it's great. I love this stuff, and people can go out to his website right now and they can sign up for it. Trends Journal is just cool as can be.
And it's trendsresearch.com, right, Gerald?
That's right.
Yep. And if you like Gerald, you'll love Trends Journal.
Well, I have to tell you, we're really pleased with it. There's nothing. I'm not saying this because it's ours, but there's really nothing in the world like it, particularly with the illustrations and the fine art and the way we look at trends. I mean, there's some great. I mean, the illustrations in there by Anthony Frieda are enough to knock you out.
Oh, I love this stuff. Hey, I got to ask you though, Gerald. Number one on my list today is your money. Did you get your money back from our good friends at MF Global?
No, I got about 2/3 back, and I'm really everyone listening should get this message really clear. The word justice means just us. That Slimer Corzine, who gets on front of his buddies over there at the House hearing, you know, and I love it. They have in front of his name the Honorable John Corzine. And I don't know. I don't know what happened to $1.6 billion. You know, I was reading this article in the paper just yesterday about down there in good old Texas, how they have every cop on the beat knocking on doors, trying to arrest people for not paying a fine. You know, their dog didn't have a license. You know, I'm not making this up.
Yep.
But the big guys, they get a free ride. I'll give you another example. It just came out today. There's this cat over in Germany that was playing president over there, Christian Wolf.
Yep.
That's with a U. And they found this guy. You know, he's doing a dirty deal. They call it. You know, they don't call it. They get a nice name for it when it's one of their guys. And he's been on the job for 20 months. And he just got a $266,000 a year pension for life. And these are the same blowhards that say, you know, I'll tell you the problem over there in Greece. It's them peoples over there that you know, they got pensions and benefits that they want that they don't deserve. What I'm saying is the whole game is twisted. The big guys run off with your money, they rob you in broad daylight, and because they're a member of the Republican and Democratic mafia, they get a free ride. Any one of us that breaks a minor infraction, well, you know, that judge, that political whore, because that's all they are,
yep.
They're members of the party, I'm going to show you that you can't snub your nose at the law. And that's what's going on. No, I haven't gotten back my money, and I work really hard for my money, and I'm really angry.
What are you going to? What's your next step, Gerald? Because
there is none. There's a phony lawsuit. You know, they're going to get a class action lawsuit. The thing will go on forever. You know, we'll get pennies back on the dollar if we get anything back.
I'm surprised you got the 2/3 back. I thought that yours was part of the 1.6 billion that just remarkably disappeared in the last 48 hours while they were in the death throes.
Yeah, and while the J.P. Morgan Chase gang was doing a number on it too.
Yep.
Yeah, so the whole thing is cooked. Or it's a rigged game.
Okay, now say, Gerald, now of all the people you and I talk about this, we should know what to do. Now that you and I know it's rigged, now that our listeners know it's rigged, what options do we have?
Well, you know, it's funny. I get a lot of emails, and people ask me what commodities broker I'm dealing with now. I say, how about none?
Yep.
You know, I'm not going to do that anymore.
Yeah, but
All I'm doing,
the flip
I make it really clear, I only buy for possession.
Well, the flip in your story was that you had been buying from a smaller firm that you liked and trusted. You didn't know that MF Global had bought that firm, that you were actually dealing with a new entity, and even then you might not have known it was corrupt until they went under, but you certainly wouldn't have chosen MF Global up front.
No.
And you were never notified that they'd been acquired.
You know what they did? They changed. What they did was I look back at it now, and what they did is they changed the letterhead when you got your statement, you know, and I didn't even see it. And I was with Lind Waldock. I'd been dealing with them for years. And they were bought out by MF Global. And I was buying for possession. That's the other element of it.
Yep.
And so what I'm saying is, I don't care who you're with, this rehypothecation baloney, all of these loopholes, you're only as safe as the next loophole.
That's right.
And the game, again, is rigged.
Yeah, and Danny and I talk about this all the time. I'm not talking down stocks and bonds. I'm not talking down paper investments and ETF. What I'm saying is people need to understand that when they hold a piece of paper, they're not holding anything except the good graces and good wills of the counterparty to your transaction. And if that person is a good person, you'll get paid. If that person is a bad person, you won't get paid.
Well, I have to tell you, I'm concerned about my ETFs, and I have my money in ETFs because of my retirement program.
Sure.
And they won't allow you to take possession, so I'm worried about that.
Yeah, and you can't keep everything in cash. You can't keep everything in gold and under a mattress in your home. And the answer is, what do you do if you leave it? Yeah, if you leave it in institutions, if the government ever decides to nationalize retirement plans, all they got to do is push a button and they own everything you own. So it really is a game of musical chairs, and you pray that you're out before anybody else is.
You got it. So I won't buy anything through commodities brokers again. I only buy for possession. And as we're looking at the trends developing now, this is a red flag time for everybody to watch. What's going on in Iran has me very, very concerned.
How's that?
And well, we're writing about it now in the Trends Journal, in that they're beating the war drums. And now this week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu from Israel is coming over to meet with Obama. And when you read, for example, the language in publications like the Wall Street Journal, that the pressure that the Israelis are putting on the administration for a preemptive attack against Iran. And then you read the language about what both our military and theirs expects, you wonder if these people are living in fantasy land. Well, at most, we'll lose 3,000 or 5,000 people. Yeah, Iran, they're not going to ignite the Middle East if we attack them. And were they out of their minds? I mean, these are the Persians. And just for the record, every assessment that the military has made with Afghanistan and Iraq, they've been wrong.
Way off. Way off.
Gerald, here's a question I've always had. Is it a preemptive strike from Israel or the U.S. if Iran has said, we want to wipe the U.S., the great Satan, and Israel, the little Satan, off the face of the map?
Again, Danny, I've gone to Google, and I've pulled up all the information I can on that. That is a total misinterpretation of what they said, from what I read. And again, my motto, think for yourself.
You bet.
And from what I've read, what they said was that Israel's not going to be around forever. It's going to bury itself, or someone else will bury it. And that's the kind of language. They're not saying, when I get a nuclear bomb, we're going to wipe you off the earth, or we're going to blow you out. It's not that at all. And here's the other reality. What are there, about 25,000 or something nuclear bombs out there? Hey, you want to talk about a real stable group that really has nuclear weapons? How about those Pakistanis, man? Oh yeah, they're solid as could be. No, the reality is anybody that, I'm a close combat practitioner.
Right.
Anybody that has a weapon, and other people have weapons, the whole game changes.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, man, you're going to blow me away. I'll blow your whole country away in 6 minutes. You're going to have 2 in 5 years. I got 12,000 now.
Well, I got to admit, though, I'll tell you, I liken Israel to me standing inside my house, and there's somebody outside my house with a gun pointing it at me, saying, "I'm going to come in and kill you." Now, the majority of the political community right now said, well, if you shoot through that door, that's preemptive. I know if there's somebody outside my door and they intend to come in and kill me, I'd rather kill them first. I don't call that preemptive. I sit there and say,
well, if you know they're going to come in, but we don't know that, and that's what I'm saying. So they're saying one thing. For example, I mean, I have the New York Times right in front of me, and you look at the last couple of days ago, you have the guy who's the the Khomeini cat, and he's saying that having a nuclear weapon is against our religion.
Right.
So I don't know, but all I'm saying is if we go to war, it's going to be World War III. And since Obama and the Senate voted 100-0 on these sanctions, since they have these sanctions in place, gasoline prices have been skyrocketing.
Oh, in anticipation of the war, no doubt about it.
Exactly. We're looking at a specter now of $5 a gallon gasoline.
You already have it in California.
And they're looking at now gas prices rising another 50 cents a gallon should this thing heat up.
Easily,
so now
sure.
When you start putting the numbers together, we have a fragile recovery that's only really based upon the Federal Reserve and the ECB dumping all this digital money in there.
Right.
Oh, now you're going to, this is wonderful. Brilliant idea, Obama and the Senate. Let's put on severe sanctions and drive up the price of oil even more, drive up gasoline prices even more, and we'll really kill this recovery.
Well, you heard what Energy Secretary Chu just said the other day. He came out and he said the administration is not opposed to high energy prices because it then forces the Americans to pick alternative sources of energy. So they're not fighting to keep oil prices down. They're not even making in fact, before Obama was even elected, he said energy prices will necessarily skyrocket under my administration, and he's getting it.
They're getting it. So this to me this is borderline insanity.
So what's going to happen, Gerald?
What we're concerned about is if they go to war, this is the beginning of World War III. These are the Persians. I'm reading these assessment numbers that they're doing. You know what they're comparing it to? And I'm not making this stuff up. They're saying, well, we did an analysis, and when Saddam Hussein in 1991 was sending Scuds into Israel, and then we had the Hezbollah sending in 5,000 rockets, or 3,000 rockets, and I'm looking up this information on these so-called rockets. Oh, they have the grand total of 28 miles of trajectory. Right. Oh, yeah. Oh, and those Scuds, 1991. Hey, guys, this is 2012. This isn't Saddam Hussein. We're looking at a major war here, and we're very concerned about it happening because if it does, it's a replay of here, follow the numbers. The crash of 1929, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. The Panic of 08. Oh, yeah. The Great Recession / Depression. And by the way, there's a depression going on around the world. There's a depression in Spain, a depression in Greece, a depression in Lithuania, Romania, depression in Portugal. Near depression, it's spreading. Depression in Ireland, it's going on.
So you don't think the president, when he comes out and says everything is getting better, and you hear some of these economists saying, oh, green shoots, look at all the progress, the economy has turned the corner, I take it you're not in that turn the corner camp.
No, I'm not in that turn the corner camp. I'm in that you guys are dumping all of this cheap money into the system, devaluing our currency, and inflation is a heck of a lot higher than what you're claiming it to be, and we're all paying for it.
Doesn't this feel like 2005, 6, and 7 to you, Gerald? It does to me. When the economy was so hot, it could do no wrong. Housing prices were going to go up forever at double-digit numbers, ignoring the fact that nothing can exceed the value of inflation forever. Nothing does that. And it seems to me like there's a feeling in people that there might be a turn in the corner, but they don't realize that it's all driven by money supply. And I guarantee you, when you ask people, say, are your friends back to work yet? No, my friends aren't back to work yet. So all I know is that I don't see an improvement in the economy out there, and I don't know any of our listeners that do. By the way, we're talking with Gerald Celente. He's the founder of Trends Research Institute. You can go out and find him at trendsresearch.com. Go subscribe to the Trends Journal. We do, and it is absolutely great stuff. If you want to join us, you can do it at 877-326-3255. So, Gerald, look deep into your crystal ball. Tell me what you have the most clarity, because I can't see the exact outcome of Iran right now. What do you have the most clarity in, let's say, over the next 6 months to a year? What can you say you feel comfortable is going to happen out there?
I wish I could say, because no one could predict the future because there are too many wild cards. And the wild cards are these, Dan and Danny, that they keep coming up with schemes undreamed of. So, for example, look what's going on over there in Europe. We said this thing is going to collapse, the Eurozone is going to break up. Greeks are in default.
Sure.
Now, what do? This Mario Draghi. Mario Draghi is the head of the European Central Bank.
Right.
Same cat was wasn't he the vice chairman of Goldman Sachs, the European division? Yeah. Oh, yeah, that Mario Draghi, right, yeah. Well, all of a sudden now, they've dumped in about 1.2 trillion euros. You're a bank? I'll tell you what, guys, you could borrow money at 1%. Just get it out there. Buy some of these crappy bonds that we can't sell, and don't worry, we'll give you a bigger return on the money that you borrow. Just keep the Ponzi scheme going. Hey, but wait, Mario, that's against the European Central Bank Charter and the Eurozone, the European Monetary Union. Don't you understand, Celente? We make up our own rules. Shut your mouth. But you're dumping all of this cheap money into the system. And by the way, Mario, the reason you're doing it, because there have been bank runs all over Europe that don't make the news.
Yeah, by the way, it's not, and as you're beginning to point out, and we've been pointing out too, it's not a liquidity problem in Europe now. Now it's a solvency problem. Now, and which is what it's always been. They've got to throw money at the bad debt. They're not throwing money at a system where that money is getting back out into the system. They're trying to compensate for really bad debt that is dragging down the equity. There's no equity left to leverage upon, and they are confusing liquidity and solvency.
Yeah. Well, and again, you look at it. There's that fight going on between the Germans and the central bank. The Germans know what the deal is,
yeah.
And they don't want it to keep going on. So it's difficult for us to point a date. It's almost impossible, because I have to tell you, I would have never believed in all of my life that I would have heard the term, 4 letters that sum up the demise of America better than any 4 that I know.
What's that?
Too big to fail.
Oh, yeah.
All my life I heard you rise and fall on your own merits. This is capitalism. There were no free rides, until you had Henry Paulson, the former U.S. Treasury Secretary under George W. Bush, make this whole big lie up. Oh, by the way, wasn't he from Goldman Sachs too?
Co-CEO.
Yeah, and wasn't that John the Slime Corzine? Wasn't he
the other co-CEO?
Yeah, and hey, how about that guy up in Canada? Their finance minister. He couldn't be from Goldman Sachs, could he? No. And that other guy, who robbed America blind, Rubin, under the Clinton administration, that deregulated the entire industry, that allowed these banks to run these criminal organizations. He didn't come from Goldman Sachs, did he?
It's a fraternity.
Yeah, no, I got to tell you, man, the Rothschilds would be jealous if they could see what the Goldman Sachs gang pulled off.
Well, I had a chance to see Robert Rubin speak here about a year ago in Dallas at a CFR meeting, and I was apparently the only constitutionalist and capitalist in that room, because everybody else was a Democrat. Everybody else was off the chart to the left. And the more Rubin talked about globalized finance, and he was so proud of what he had accomplished under the Clinton administration, Rubin single-handedly, along with Greenspan, decimated our future. Now, they didn't change the 90s. They changed the 2000s and the 2010s, because what they did, it took 10 to 15 years to come to fruition. They took long-term debt of the government and traded it for short-term debt just to save a few basis points in interest. Now we've got to roll over a third of our debt every 2 years.
I know.
Absolutely shameful. Yet when you go back and say, oh, it's old news, it's revisionist history, well, you got to understand how we got in this position before you can fix yourself and keep yourself from getting in the same position later on. And our team that's in office right now is making worse mistakes than Greenspan made and that Rubin made.
I agree. And, you know, you look back, by the way, you know, stuff that hardly makes the news. This is from a January 13th Wall Street Journal. Little alarm shown at Fed at dawn of housing bust. In his second meeting as chairman of the Federal Reserve in May 2006, Ben Bernanke heard a Fed governor warn about the nation's mortgage market. But Mr. Bernanke described the cooling of the housing boom as, quote, a healthy thing. Quote, so far we are seeing, at worst, an orderly decline in the housing market. I mean, if I said something like that, I'd be thrown out of my job. And there's one after another. Why would any intelligent adult believe these people? They're wrong continually. They have a track record of being wrong, and they're wrong again. All they are doing is stealing from us. People cannot have a decent savings income because Osama Ben Bernanke has decided to keep interest rates, what, at near zero to 2014?
Oh, and to encourage at least 2% inflation at the same time. So just in case you didn't wipe out pensioners' ability to pay for their own lives, now you'll wipe it out 3 or 4 times faster because now you've got inflation to go with the no interest rates.
Gentlemen, we're coming up against a hard break. Gerald, thanks so much for being on. And folks, if you liked what you heard, you can go to trendsresearch.com and check out his research. And Gerald, if you intend to join that class action, make sure you go after the accountants, the lawyers, and the E&O insurance, the errors and omission insurance.
Okay.
That's going to be your best shot.
Thanks so much.
Good luck, Gerald.
Take care, buddy.
All right, take care. Well, folks, thanks so much. Thanks, Dan, for being on and doing that interview with Gerald. It was fun and full of fireworks. Folks, we will be right back on the final segment of the Wall Street Shuffle with Howard, our resident CPA. We'll be right back.